Hi, my name is Aaron, and I'm a partner at Nest, and I have the privilege of looking after our Africa office.
And what does Nest do?
Nest is split into three divisions. We started our life as a pure venture fund. We invested in companies all across the world, in Europe, in Asia, in America, as well as now in Africa. We also, through Nest Innovation, run partner programs with brands like Infinity, Konica Minolta, AIA, Barclays, and MTN here in Africa on innovation programs to help them work closely with startups, to help startups bring their agility and their sort of market knowledge and their sort of hustle to the corporations, and for the corporations to sort of bring their market access and their expertise to the startups as well. And so that's Nest Innovation. And finally, of course, the beautiful space you see around you, that's our third division, Meta. Meta is our club for startups, investors, and experts to come together, to share ideas, to share resources, and to build the next together, right? To take their respective businesses and projects to the next level.
And you've been here 3 years, so what lessons have you learned looking at startups, African startups in the ecosystem?
Sure, I think it's been a fantastic 3 years. I've definitely seen a lot of the ecosystem has changed a lot over the last 3 years. I think some of the lessons that I've learned have been, first one really being that one thing that this ecosystem doesn't yet have is a strong population of experienced business people, experienced people that have gone through corporate, that have held head of department roles, that have driven products in corporates, that are coming out to start their own startups. I think we will be getting there soon, but I think a lot of the startups that you see in Africa are still students that are straight out of school, have a brilliant idea, want to build it, but just don't have the right support or the right experience to do so. And so I think I'm looking forward to a state whereby it does join the ranks of the more mature cities and more mature ecosystems where there are sort of more experienced entrepreneurs coming through.
You were mentioning Sendi earlier. Sendi is almost second generation, isn't it? Because that's their second startup.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so-
exactly.
Yeah.
I think very often as an angel investor myself, I really love looking at startups founded by a founder that has already failed twice, failed 3 times.
Yeah.
It just means that they've learned so much from being able to roll out their business, right? I think that experience is key, and I think that leads us quite nicely into sort of the second observation, right? Which is I think there's been a really huge aversion to failure. Right, and I think that has really caused a lot of startups who are no longer on startup trajectory, who are no longer growing 20% month on month, to continue sort of being there, to refuse to recognize their own failure. And I think that also has to change, because I think if a founder who's you're a strong founder, it could just be that the idea didn't come true at the right time, you didn't build the right team, so many things could have gone wrong, right? I think it really would be great if more people recognize that they should just call it quits, shut it down, start a new one that could also work. Hey, maybe the second one also doesn't work, and try a third time, right?
Yeah.
But I think there is a need to make a clean break and to recognize failure when it's staring you in the face.
And what types of startups or particular startups are you excited about at the moment?
Sure. I think obviously we're very excited at startups that facilitate something that is already happening. So when we look at e-commerce, for example, I'm very excited at platforms and technologies that will support e-commerce, right? So what does e-commerce need to succeed? It needs to be able to deliver their products. It needs to be able to deliver their products to the right place, right? So again, if you look at startups like OkHi, which are equipping every Kenyan with an address, that is a fundamental need to get to before an e-commerce startup can be successful, right? If you look at how can we get small goods and services, small goods anyway, to people now that they have an OkHi address. I think Sendi, the startup that you mentioned again, is perfect for that, right? Because it uses resources that are already there in the Boda Boda drivers, the motorcycle taxis that are already there, converting them into couriers, and having them access neighborhoods that they're already familiar with. To be able to drive these goods and services, right? To be able to drive these goods. So I think we're very excited about technologies and startups that are supporting wider commerce. I think that's extremely key.
And just lastly, when will we see a transaction when a startup in Africa actually has either an IPO or sells in a way that's high profile and has significant money attached to it?
Sure. I think while we remain extremely bullish and optimistic about the ecosystem in Africa being able to churn out such a great success story. We do think that we're probably still a few years away from that, right? I think that you've seen the success of startups are they startups, right? You've seen the success of companies like InterSwitch. You've seen the success of companies like Andela. Andela obviously being Zuckerberg's first investment on the continent. So I think we are getting to a place whereby those companies will quickly come through, but I still do think we're a few years away from that.